So one of my Patreon subscribers asked for some more pentatonic exercises, so I thought I'd see if I could give him the Motherlode, or at least the first half of that. Now what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the pentatonic scale, you'll see that there's a lower note and a higher note on every string, so there's 2 notes per string basically. And so many pentatonic lines based around this alternating between a lower note and a higher note on the string, so you find yourself doing this movement an awful lot, so basically the trill. And so what I thought I'd do is write out every possible combination of 4-note patterns that sit across 2 strings and 6-note patterns that sit across 2 strings that alternate between the lower note and the higher note. Yeah? And that's what I've written down and put in a PDF. So if you check the description field, there's a PDF that you can just download, and it has all of these patterns drawn out. Now the other nice thing actually for these is you can use them to generalize your pentatonic technique, because if you can get used to this move alternating between a lower note and a higher note, you've pretty much got the pentatonic scale beaten. The other benefit of this actually is that this kind of movement lends itself to legato, because you're never playing notes on the same side of the shape, so you'll find that you can play these using hammer-ons from nothing. So I'll try and demonstrate that as well. So what we'll do to start with is we'll zoom in on the guitar neck, and I'll pick one of the patterns and sort of show you the kinds of things that I do with it. Okay, so let's have a look at the 4-note fragments in a bit more detail. If you have a look at them, each bar just contains 4 notes, and they're all based on the same 4 notes. They're all taken from the A minor blues scale or pentatonic on the 5th fret, and they're all just based on the bottom 4 notes. Yeah? But don't get fixated by the notes. The thing to be interested in is the movement around those notes. So if for example, I pick the 3rd fragment here, you can see that's the shape. And I can take that idea and just move it. And I can change positions as well. Yeah. And the other nice thing about these is, because they're alternating from a lower note to an upper note and then back to a lower note, they lend themselves to legato. So I can play these and use this as a theme to just practice hammer-ons from nothing. Yeah? And similarly, I can start moving these around. So if I just play each fragment across each set of strings, I get that kind of thing. Yeah, or I can change position as well. So that's the thing with these, and actually another great idea is to just freestyle them. See if we can just take that theme, that little 4-note fragment, and just move them around the neck. Just get used to that shape. So that's a great way of using them. So that's the 4-note fragments. Now the 3-note fragments are a little bit different. And if you look at each line, you'll see that the first line, all of the notes basically start from a lower note, go to an upper note, and a finish on a lower note again. So if you looped these, you'd end up playing the same side of the shape twice, which is not what we want. If you look at the second line though, you can see these all start from an upper shape, fall down to a lower shape, and go back to the upper shape again. So the best way of using these is to just choose one pattern from the first line and one pattern from the second line. So if let's say I choose the first one, and then this one from the second line. Yeah. You can see now it turns into a 6-note pattern that does alternate on the left and the right hand side of the shape. And again, I can take that idea and I can move it across the neck, I can move it around, and I can start to freestyle with that as well. So, and again, this will lend itself these kinds of hammer-ons for nothing if you want to work on that technique as well. So really useful things that you can start to do with this, and really you can take this wherever you want to. Now when I'm using these as an exercise, what I'd like to do actually is to just go through them, try a few of them out and find the one that I find the most awkward, and that's the one that I focus on for that day. And I tend to just cycle through them that way, just focusing on the weakest one every day until I bring up my technique generally. So that's one way of using them. Another thing to be aware of is the pentatonic scale isn't the only scale, the only shape or arpeggio that has 2 notes per string. So, you know, you can do string skipping, and that puts 2 notes on a string as well, and that's a minor arpeggio. And I use that as my 4 notes to practice these shapes as well. So that's another thing you can do. The other thing you'll find is 9th arpeggio sit across. Sit across 2 notes per string as well, so you can use this to work on 9th arpeggios. And pretty much anything that sits across 2 strings. You can start with a 3 notes per string scale and just drop 1 note per string if you like, and use these ideas. Finally, it's worth exploring these from a musical point of view. Think of these as motifs. Think of these as just little ideas, and then see if you can create a musical phrase or a musical idea from this movement of notes, and then elaborate on that and see if you can turn it into a piece of music, or turn it into a lick anyway. And that's another thing I like to do with this, because I find that these shapes introduce ideas, or there'll be big leaps that I wouldn't normally use in the licks that I normally play. So that's a great way of using them as well. So part 2 of this, if I put it online, is all about shapes where we have repeated notes on the same side of the pentatonic scale. So if there's interest in that, I'll work those out and I'll put those online as well. But anyway, we'll chat next time. Goodbye.